This is my 1988 Toyota pickup turbo truck. It has got a 2RZFE engine out of a 1999 Toyota Tacoma. It's pushing about 8 to 9 pounds of boost, and right now it has got no intercooler. What that means is that the air comes in here through my air filter into my turbo. It pushes it directly through this charge pipe into the intake. In order to cool my intake air temperatures, I am going to be adding an intercooler. I've got a 2.5-inch intercooler piping kit and intercooler that I got off of Facebook Marketplace for $50, and that is perfect with this turbo truck build. Everything has been super budget. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna whip out this 2.5-inch intercooler kit, I'm gonna whip out all of the pipe I've got, and we're gonna see if we can make it fit in here. And the goal is, of course, to make it look stock. I don't want this thing to look super modified or cut up, and I want no one to know that there's an intercooler in it. So I'm gonna take the grill off, and I'm gonna start assessing if there's enough room here to put an intercooler in. Then I will have to reroute all of my intercooler piping, and you will never know unless you pop the hood. That's the goal.
Start it up. This is lit.
Last night we got quite a bit done. We got all of the intercooler piping mocked up, and I actually extended my turbo intake into the corner of the fender just to give it a little bit cooler air and keep it a little bit further away from the exhaust manifold. Here is the intercooler and what I've got going on. On the bottom, I went ahead and I just notched out 2 little notches and drilled 2 holes, and I mounted it straight to the bottom core support. And for the top, I went ahead and I spaced out this little piece of angle iron just a little bit, and it catches this hood latch perfect, which mounts the top of the intercooler, as well as giving my hood latch a nice solid mount so that when I shut my hood, there's no issues there. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna throw the bumper on, start test fitting the grill, get the valence on, and we should be good to go. And here in the engine bay, we've just got this coming up, over, and around to the throttle body. And on the turbo side, we have exiting the turbo coming straight into the intercooler and around. This looks like it's gonna work pretty darn good. And I also, like I said, extended the intake tube for the turbo, so hopefully this gives me a little bit cooler air.
Since this thing is my daily driver, genuinely and wholeheartedly, I've been daily driving this thing. I've put about 1,200 miles on it so far. I went ahead and I loaded it full of scrap metal, and we're gonna go to the scrapyard today. And the scrapyard is gonna tell us two things. One, does this work as a work truck? There's, 300 or 400 pounds of scrap back there. There's like a rear subframe and a bunch of other random miscellaneous stuff that just needs to go. And then also, what this thing weighs. When I leave the scrapyard, they're gonna give me an empty weight. So when I leave, I should have an idea of what the truck weighs with nothing in it. So we're highway driving with a full bed of metal, running like 180 to 1 degrees coolant temp, intake air temp 79 degrees, and it's like 60 degrees outside. About to jump off of the highway and get to the scrapyard. And I have, again, no issues. This thing is doing awesome. Gets like 22 miles to the gallon, which is pretty good considering it's a turbo car. And I drive it like a jack. We're at the scrapyard. Let's see what we weigh. 3340. Not too heavy. We'll see how much of that's in the back. All right, we're emptied out. 2780. 2,800 pounds with me in it. It's not too bad. We have been driving the turbo Toyota pickup for 1,100 miles now, over 1,000 miles. It's done amazing, it's done fantastic, but I want to turn it up. This thing is awesome, but it needs some more boost. And now that we got the intercooler on it, which you can barely see, if it weren't for that blue boot, you would not be able to tell there's an intercooler on this thing. So now that we got this thing intercooled, we got the intake air temps reasonable, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna turn this thing up. We got the turbo truck in the garage and we're gonna start turning it up. So I'm just gonna pull this thing apart, we're gonna pull the wastegate off, and we're gonna throw another spring in it. It should be that simple, and it should boost us up to 10 to 11 PSI. Right now we got a 5-pound spring in it, and we're pushing about 6 pounds. I think with a 5-pound and a 4-pound, which should be about 9 pounds, I'm hoping to be pushing right around 9 to 11, maybe 12, very top. That would be ideal. This thing isn't heavy, so that should work well. We went ahead and we got the wastegate spring added. You saw we just pulled it off. It's real simple. I threw a clamp on there, pulled it apart, added the 4-pound spring to the 5-pound spring. Should give us about 9 PSI of spring. I'm not referencing it right now. No reference on a 5 PSI spring gave us about 6 to peaking at 7 barely. So adding the 4-pound spring to that, if we do the math, I'm guessing 11 to 13. Hoping not to go 13, I'd like 12, but just in case it's pushing too much boost, I brought a hose that's in the cab that's long enough to reference the wastegate to turn the boost down. So I'm not gonna blow this thing up. That's the goal anyway. So we're gonna go take it for a rip, see what it does, see how much boost it builds, and see how this thing does with a little bit more power. We just hit the pavement, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. So hopefully everything goes all right. We'll see what it makes for a boost. Oh! Oh! It just kicked the rear end out. That's awesome. Right at 9 PSI. That's awesome. I'm pumped. This is where I like this thing. That was crazy. I have never turned a car up. I've never had a turbo car other than the Supra, and that thing just was a registered shit box. This thing's decent.